Welcome. I'm Dr. Sudhakar, Director MBA, Hindustan College of Arts and Science. I'm going to discuss with you operations management and introduction. You know that every day of life we use a lot of products and services. In operations management, we are going to look at how these products and services are manufactured and supplied to you and the services offered to you. We will also have an understanding about the various scope and functions of the operations function in manufacturing these products and services. Let us look into some of the examples during the discussion of this particular session. Welcome all. Let us now look into the definition of operations management. Operations management is defined as the process whereby resources flowing within a defined system are combined and transformed in a controlled manner to add value in accordance with the policies communicated by the management. Now, if you look at this definition, you have to understand there are a few important variables in this definition. One is the resources, second one is the system, the third one is the process of combining and transforming, and very important, what you're going to do is what is being asked by the management of the company to produce or provide the service. And all these things you have to do it in a perfect controlled manner so that you will be able to produce the product and provide the service as expected by the management. So, when you are looking at the various resources required for the process of manufacturing or providing service, we are looking at the various inputs. So, these inputs which are required for manufacturing or providing the service is based on what the company wants to deliver. So, that is where the policy of communicated by the management comes into. What is the product, what is the service we are going to do, at what price we are going to do, to whom we are going to do, what is their expectations. So based on this only the various resources which are required for manufacturing or providing the service is defined. So operations management plans what are the resources required, and it also decides the system which is required for combining these various resources. So these resources have to be combined together to produce the output, that is the end product or end service. So how do we combine and transform the various resources, and what are the systems required to achieve this and provide a better product or service is defined as operations management. So again, when we look at it, operations management is defined as a process whereby resources flowing within a defined system are combined and transformed in a controlled manner to add value in accordance with the policies communicated by the management. And when you are analyzing this definition, another important aspect which you have to really look into is we are adding value in this system. There is a resource, and when it comes out, it is an output where value is added. Let us look at it in a diagrammatic way. So, if you look at this pictorial representation, you can see the various resources required for this product or process is given, and you have the outputs which is known as goods and service. The diagram what you are seeing is known as the input output model of production system or operation system. So in this input output model of operation system, we have four components or four subsystems: input subsystem, output subsystem, transformation process subsystem, and the control subsystem. So if you look at this diagram, you have the required output, which is the goods and services or products and services. These products and services are defined by the management, what you want to produce or what you want to serve. So based on this, the inputs are decided, and based on the product and service which you are going to provide, the process is defined. So based on the output only, the transformation process is defined, and based on the output only, the various resources required are defined. So based on that, the various resources are defined, which is combined together to transform into the required output. So in this process of transformation, value addition happens. So an economic activity is happening where the value of the input gets increased, becomes an output. So the value of the output is going to be better than the value of input. So in the process of conversion, value addition takes place. That is what is depicted in this diagram. And you also have the control loop. If you say there is a feedback loop, this feedback loop is nothing but a control mechanism which is used to ensure that this system operates perfectly. For example, is the product or service what we are expected to produce or serve is up to your expected quality standards or up to our expectations or not? So that is where we do the cross verification with the actual output and the planned output. That is where the control process comes, where we get a feedback and we try to measure. Similarly, we try to measure the transformation process to find out whether we are manufacturing the product according to our expected level of performance or not. Similarly, we are also looking at the feedback control analysis for the inputs, whether we have got the required inputs as already defined or not. If at all there is going to be variation in any of these stages, output stage or transformation stage or the input stage, we try to take a control measure. So that is why we try to correct it and ensure that this system operates effectively so that we are able to achieve what we want to achieve as well as a product or a service. So this diagrammatic representation will make you understand what is value addition in the process of operations management and how this value addition takes place perfectly with the help of the control mechanism which is existing in the operations management system. Okay, now let us look at what is the difference between products and services. Now, when you look at this particular slide, you will be able to understand that number of activities have been listed. Steel production, it is the manufacturing of steel. Automobile fabrication, manufacturing of automobile component parts. Home modeling, home remodeling, retail sales, auto repair, appliance repair, maid service, manual car wash, teaching activity, mowing a lawn, maintaining a lawn. So these are all activities which have been depicted. And these activities have been depicted in an order which we call it as the goods service continuum. So the range of manufacturing and service activity which is performed varies in this particular continuum. So that is what is depicted in this particular picture. Now, if you look at this, steel production and automobile fabrication, there is a high percentage of goods producing activity, that is manufacturing or product related activity. The component of service is very less, that is what is mentioned here, high percentage of goods and low percentage of service. When you move forward to the other extreme of teaching and learning, lawn moving, you can see slowly the percentage of goods getting reduced where you increase the percentage of service. So in this continuum, we can understand that there are a number of services and products which are being manufactured to satisfy the expectations of the customers, and all these products have a combination of goods producing activity and the service providing activity. So it varies according to the product what you are really looking at. So that is what we are trying to understand in this. Some examples of food producing or manufacturing activity. Okay, if you look at food processing, where we try to manufacture canned vegetables, which is the output, the inputs for this manufacturing of canned vegetables are raw vegetables, metal sheets, water, energy, labor, building, equipment. With all these resources, we are going to produce canned vegetables. So the processing which is involved in manufacturing canned vegetables are cleaning the vegetables, the process of manufacturing cans, cutting the vegetables, cooking the vegetables, packing it, and labeling. See, these are the processes which are carried out in preparing or getting the output of canned vegetables. So this is an example for you to understand what operation system is about in manufacturing a product. Input process and output. Similarly, let us look at an example for service industry, say hospital process. So in a hospital, the output is we have to have healthy patients. That is, anybody coming into service for the hospital, we require them to go out of the hospital as a cured patient, healthy patient. So that is the output. So the inputs for the hospital are the infrastructure which is required, namely the equipments, laboratories, hospital medical supplies, doctors, nurses. So they are going to be the inputs for the hospital process. The processing activity which is done in a hospital are examining the patient, monitoring the performance of the patient, providing medication based on his condition, whether surgery is required or not, or any therapy is required. So the doctors perform this evaluation and they decide. So depending upon the patients, the processing activity varies. At the end of the day, the patient comes out of the hospital as a healthy patient. So we have understood. There is also another example which you look at. Any service industry, if you take, for example, education, if you take, in education, the output is qualified students. Inputs are infrastructure, the college, the faculty, the student, the equipments which are required for teaching. The processes, the method, the pedagogy, the various equipments which are used for it, examination, supporting assignments, cues, all these things becoming process. So this is an example of a service industry. So education has become an example for a service industry. I hope all of you have understood what is a service industry and what is a goods manufacturing facility. Now let us look at the difference between these two, manufacturing and service. Manufacturing is tangible and service industry or service is an act which is intangible. Characteristics of various activities which are carried out in manufacturing and service. In manufacturing, production of goods is done where you will get tangible output. In case of canned vegetables example, the canned vegetable is a tangible output. In case of a steel factory, steel is going to be the tangible output. So when we say tangible, you can touch, feel and have a feel of it. Whereas in case of the service, we are providing a service, it is an act. The example which you have taken is the hospital. In the hospital, services are done. So it is an act. Doctor provides medical services. In an educational institution, the educational institution provides teaching and learning process. So it is a service. Similarly, there are certain service job categories. For example, government is doing a service. All the activities which are done by the government is a service. The wholesalers and retailers who are operating in the market, they are providing the service. They are providing the service of getting products and satisfying the requirement or expectation of the customer. Financial institutions, financial services, they are providing financial services to the customers by providing the required financial resources for the customer. Healthcare industry we have seen. Then personal services like the maid, the attender, they are called as personal service. Driver is a personal service which is required for people. So they are coming under the category of personal services. Then you have business services. See, a lot of business required a lot of other activities. For example, if you take a business, you need moving product, transportation. You need somebody to take care of the accounting service. So that is called as business service. Education, as we have discussed already, education is a service. I hope we have given a number of examples for product manufacturing as well as service industry. Now let us look at the key differences between these manufacturing industry and the service industry. Now if you look at the differences, we can look at the factors, certain factors which we can make a difference between what's happening in a manufacturing industry and what's happening in a service industry. Now if you look at the first factor, customer contact. Now, if you take a manufacturing setup, any product which is manufactured, the contact with the customer is very, very minimum. The factory is going to be in one place, product process of manufacturing takes place, the product is manufactured, and the product is moved to the place where the customer is. So the customer contact in the goods producing facility is less. Whereas if you look at the service providing facility, the customer becomes part of the system. The customer contact is high. Now you take the example of hospital, which we have discussed earlier, or the education system. So the customers are patient and student. So without these two people, you cannot provide this service. So the customer contact is high in case of service industry. Now if you take the second factor, uniformity of input. If you take manufacturing, a company manufactures a product, steel manufacturing, if you take, the input for steel manufacturing is going to be steel ingots. So the raw material is going to be the same. It doesn't differ. So in case of manufacturing industry, the uniformity of input is going to be more. Whereas if you go and look at the service industry, the uniformity may not be the same in terms of the inputs. Like, if you take the hospital, the patients are there, the inputs required for treating the patient will be different based on a diagnosing of the disease what he has and the treatment what he requires. So that varies. So that is where we say the uniformity of input in a service industry is going to be different or high. In case of manufacturing, it is going to be low. The uniformity is more, whereas in case of service providing facility, the uniformity is less because different varieties. I can also tell you some other examples, for service industry. Hotel industry is an example for service. You as a customer go there, you want something to be taken. So each one does not order the same dish. So preparing various dishes, the inputs is going to be different. So that's an example. Labor content of jobs. The level of labor involvement into the job. That is what we are looking at. Again, it is a comparative statement. If you look at the manufacturing setup, automation is very high. The likely chance of labor intensiveness is less. Whereas in the service industry, labor intensiveness is high. In an example, let us take the hospital. You have doctors, nurses, attenders, everybody. A lot of labor is involved into providing the service. Whereas if you take at the same time steel manufacturing or any other manufacturing, the influence of technology and automation or mechanization reduces the labor content. Again, it's a comparative statement which we are telling. The next important factor is the uniformity of output. The uniformity of output in the manufacturing facility is high because when the system is created, it produces same type of products one by other. Whereas in a service producing facility, the uniformity of output is less. The same example which you take education, number of students are admitted in a college, each one is taken into a particular course. Number of patients admitted in a hospital, each one requires a different treatment and they come out as a different person. You go to a hotel, each one has certain dishes and you are happy with the individual dishes which you order. So the uniformity of output is less in service industry. Another factor, the key difference between manufacturing and service is the measurement of productivity. In case of manufacturing industry, the measurement of productivity is easy because the involvement of people is less. You have a lot of mechanization. You will be able to measure the input. You will be able to measure the output. There is a unit of measurement. Whereas in case of service industry, the unit of measurement, productivity, you can achieve, but it is little difficult because a lot of human involvement is there. Sometimes you have to observe, you have to take how these services offer you because you get opinion from customers. So based on the opinion, you have to rank them. So measurement of productivity is little difficult in case of service industry. Take the next factor, production and delivery. Now, in case of manufacturing industry or goods producing facility, production is done in one place, delivery is done in another place. That is, You manufacture a product and move the product to the customers where the customers are. That is the characteristics of manufacturing industry or goods producing facility. Whereas if you look at the providing facility, service providing facility happens simultaneously. The services are provided, producing and delivery takes place together. The patients have to be in the hospital to get the service. Students have to be in the college to get themselves learned. Right? We customers have to be in the hotel to get to eat something in the hotel. People have to be on the bus or transport to get the facility of transport. So production and delivery takes place simultaneously in the service industry. Next factor, key of differences, quality assurance. Now, getting quality assurance in a goods and manufacturing facility is very, very high because every system is defined. You can measure the quality, you can define the processes, the quality of inputs, quality of output, the process definition, the measurement of process, assuring the process that it will produce good quality. Everything can be put in place and you will be able to get best quality. Whereas in the service industry, still you can get quality assurance. But to get this quality assurance, you have to have high level of skills and training to the people who are providing the service. Because a human element involved is high. So when the human element involved is high, training is required and monitoring the performance of the human element in providing the service is very important. So that is going to decide what is the quality of assurance that you can give for service industry. There is going to be a difference. Then the amount of inventory which you are going to have based on goods producing facility and the service facility. In a goods producing facility, the characteristic is that you are producing similar type of products and delivering the products, so the large amount of similar type of inventories will be maintained. Whereas in a service providing facility, you are going to satisfy different type of customers. So you need to have good amount of inventory, but different types of inventory has to be maintained to satisfy different types of customers. So these are all the key differences between the goods manufacturing facility and the service providing facility. Now, whatever we have discussed, I am giving it as a tabular column. So this tabular column gives you whatever we have discussed. It has been summarized. Manufacturing versus service. The characteristics are output, customer contact, uniformity in input, labor content, uniformity of output, measurement of productivity, opportunity to correct quality problems. If you take output, manufacturing, it is tangible, service, it is intangible. Customer contact, manufacturing is low, service is high. Uniformity of input, manufacturing is high, service is low. Labor content, manufacturing low, service is high. Uniformity of output, high in case of tangible, high in case of manufacturing and low in case of services. Measurement of productivity is easy in manufacturing, difficult in service. Opportunity to correct quality problems is high in case of manufacturing and low in case of service providing facility. So this table gives you a comparative analysis of manufacturing and service based on the characteristics which we have listed. I hope you understand the differences between manufacturing and service industries. Now, let us look into the scope of operations management. So, operations management includes forecasting, capacity planning, scheduling, managing inventory, assuring quality, motivating employees, deciding where to locate facilities, and how to decide the manufacturing, what type of manufacturing is required, how many people are required. All these come under operations management. Now, let us take an example, right? You want to start a company. How will you decide you want to start a company? You will try to probe into the market to find out what is the need of the customer. So when you go in for a market survey or a market analysis, you will try to get information what is the product or required by the customer. That is where the forecasting comes. When you do a market analysis or a market survey, you try to forecast what is the demand for a product or what product is required. So based on these inputs, you decide I'm going to manufacture a product. So when you decide I'm going to manufacture a product, you are going to decide where you're going to start the facility. So this is going to answer a question, where is your plant to be located? Now, the plant location is based on certain factors, because when you want to start an industry, there are certain factors of production. So you will be looking into those factors of production. The land availability should be there, the cost of land should be less, labor availability, raw material availability, power availability, support available from the government, financial institution support, whether it is in backward area, whether I can get some sort of benefit from the backward area given by the government. So all these factors are going to be influencing to decide where I'm going to locate the industry. So once I decide this is the place I'm going to start the industry, I have to decide with what capacity I'm going to start. Say, for example, the steel manufacturing company, they have to decide on what is the tonnage, how many tons of steel I am going to manufacture. That is based on the demand. What is the demand for steel? So, based on the demand for steel, I am deciding what is the tonnage. But again, there is another factor which you have to consider. The demand can be for so many thousands of tons of steel, but do I have the capability to produce that? So, my capacity to produce also is a matter where I decide the capacity. So, my capability in terms of technology, financial ability, and to market decides in what capacity I am going to create the facility. That is where I come into capacity planning. So, once I decide the capacity planning, then what I have to do? I have to buy the machines. I have to start the civil constructions. So, management of people has to be there, deciding how many people required, in what skill set I required, recruiting them. Then once the factory is ready, then I have to prepare the production plan. I have to schedule the manufacturing process so that time bound manufacturing takes place from process to process. Getting raw materials, completing the production process, moving the finished products to the market. So, how to manage the inventory to take care of the demand in the market. So, when I am doing this process of manufacturing, I have to ensure the quality of output. When I want to ensure the quality of output, I have to look into the quality of input, the quality of process in manufacturing. So, I have to do all this analysis. So, and when I am doing the analyzing the process of setting up a facility, operations management includes all these things. I have to motivate employees to ensure that they are contributing to the best. Their efficiency are high, only then my cost of production comes down. And I have to provide incentives to them so that I am able to really retain them. So, all these things come under the scope of operations management. So, if you're going to be an operations manager tomorrow, you are going to come across all these decisions. You are going to make a lot of decisions related to this: capacity planning, forecasting, deciding on the inventory level, deciding on the quality level, deciding on how to motivate employees, deciding on the process of locating the facility, deciding on the plant layout, deciding on the scheduling. So, all these things are going to come under the purview of operations management. I hope you are able to understand what we are discussing, the scope of operations management. Now, let us get into what are the functions associated with operations management. Generally, all the activities related directly to the production of goods and services is known as operations function. So, whatever activity you are going to do in the process of manufacturing or providing the service is known as the operations function. For example, we have discussed the scope. So, all the activity under the scope when we are performing, it becomes the functions. Forecasting is a function of operations management. Scheduling is a function of operations management. Deciding the location is a function of operations management. Planning the layout is a function of operations management. Determining the inventory level, monitoring and controlling the inventory is function of operations management. Material handling is a function of operations management. Transportation is a function of operations management. Stores management is a function of operations management. Controlling production is a function of operations management. Controlling quality is a function of operations management. So, all these activities which are associated in performing the activities to produce a product or service comes under operations management. Now let us look at different types of operations which based on certain operations which with examples. The types of operations which we are looking at are goods producing facility, storage or transport facility, exchange activity, entertainment operation, communication operation. See, all these five are operations. Goods producing is an operation, storing is an operation, transporting is operation, exchanging is an operation, entertaining is an operation, communicating is an operation. So we have given some examples. If you take goods producing, examples are farming, mining, construction, manufacturing, and power generation, and many more you can say. We have given listed down some examples. If you look at storing and or transportation activities, warehousing is a storage activity, trucking is a transportation activity, mail service is a transportation activity, moving is a transportation activity, taxis are involved in transportation operation, buses are involved in transportation operation, airlines is involved in transportation operations, hotels are involved in storage operations. So these are all certain examples, some of the examples for storage and transportation. If you look at the exchange operation, examples are retailing, wholesaling, banking, renting, leasing, library, loans providing. They all come under exchange operation. So almost all the examples what we have given is self-explanatory. I hope you will be able to understand what retailing is, wholesaling is about, banking, renting is about. The entertainment operation. The examples are films, radio and television, concerts, and recording of certain programs. They are all coming under entertainment industry. So entertainment operation involves all these examples. Coming to the next one, operation and communication. Now communication operation, the examples are newspapers, radio, television, newscast, telephones, satellite. Today, social media is an example for communication. So different types of operations are there, different examples are listed. So all activities which are carried out to provide that operation is coming under the functions of operations management. Farming, the various operations are there. Mining, the various operations are there. Warehousing operations are there. Retailing operations are there. Film producing operations are there. Newspaper production operations are there. Right? So let us understand the various types of operations are there in the market. For performing the various operations to produce the product or service comes under operations function, and the management of all this comes under operations management. Now let us go into the responsibilities of operations management. You become an operations manager tomorrow after your management program, and when you take the responsibility as an operations manager, what are the responsibilities you will have? That is what we are now trying to discuss. Basically, your responsibility will be to perform the various functions of planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling, which are nothing but the basic functions of a manager. But in case of operations management, what do you plan? What do you organize? What do you direct? What do you staff? What do you control? That is going to vary. If you look at the planning process of an operations manager, the operations manager plans the capacity. What is the capacity of the organization? He plans the location, where to start the production facility, where to start the goods service providing facility. What is the product or what is the service that I am going to plan and produce? Whether I am going to manufacture a all product or I am going to buy some product from outside. Planning process. I have to plan the layout. I have to plan the project. I have to prepare the production schedule or service schedule. So, as an operations manager, I have to plan all these activities, planning the capacity, location, products and services, make or buy, layout, projects, and scheduling. If you look at the process of organizing, what is the organizing activity that the operations manager has to do? The operations manager has to organize all the resources which are required for manufacturing the product or provide the service. So he has to create an organization, define roles, responsibility of people, and give them the job. He has to create the resources, infrastructure required in case of machineries, equipments, everything. He has to organize the purchase of raw materials. He has to organize the movement of goods. So he has to organize or determine the process of technology which he is going to use for converting process. So as an operations manager, you will be involved in organizing all these things. The staffing activity is going to be very critical. Without manpower, nothing happens in any industry. Maybe the level of manpower involvement will be different, but manpower is going to be important. So hiring and laying off is an important decision making of your operations manager responsibility. So you have to hire people, recruit them, put into the right job. If they are not doing well, you have to send them off. How to use the available resources to the maximum possible extent, that is optimum use of available resources, has to be done by the operations manager. He has to plan and use the available resources effectively. So for that, he has to plan and decide how you're going to use the resources. That is where staffing comes in. Directing, the job of ensuring that every resource in the organization is being utilized as per plan, monitoring the performance of them, giving them direction, providing them incentive plans so that their input can be increased, in giving them instructions. These are the activities that each and everybody has to do so that the organizational objectives can be achieved, or the production objective can be achieved, or the service objective can be achieved. As per the organizational structure, you have to define this job is for this gentleman and you have to make him work and to get the best out of him. So that is where your directing activity of operations manager comes in. So you are totally responsible for the productivity of the organization. So directing function which you do helps you to increase productivity of the organization. Then coming to the control process, controlling and improving the performance of the goods producing facility or the service producing facility is a responsibility of operations manager. So under controlling and improving, you have to control and improve the inventory. We all know inventory is an ideal resource. So he has to decide what is the optimum stock level to be maintained so that the cost involved in stocking the inventory is less. So utilization of inventory has to be high. He has to control, improve the inventory management process. He has to control quality, improve the quality, because he is responsible for providing the best quality of the system. He is responsible for producing the product at the lowest possible cost. So he has to ensure that no cost overruns are there. So that is where he comes into controlling the cost of the product, cost of manufacturing. Overall, he is totally responsible for increasing the productivity of the company. So he has to look at what is the current level of productivity, why the productivity is less, where it is becoming less. He has to take suitable actions, control, improve the activity so that the productivity of the organization gets improved. So the productivity of all resources in the organization has to be improved, which is a total responsibility of the operations manager. So if you look at it, an operations manager does the functions of a general manager, like planning, organizing, directing, controlling, coordinating, but does all these jobs related to the operations function. And that is going to be his key responsibilities in performing his job as operations manager. So when you look at the decisions that he takes, the key decisions of operations manager, in short, we tell that 5 W's and 1 H. What, when, where, who, and how. So this is a management parlance, where we say 5W and 1H, where we try to, anybody who asks this question can plan effectively and perform the job. So it is going to be the same for operations manager. where he has to decide what resources required and what amount he is required. That is the decision making process which he does. When it is required, when to order, when to get it, what is the time of needing your this. So that is where when it is needed, when it is scheduled to arrive, when it is to be ordered so that it will arrive at the scheduled time. Planning the lead time and delivery of products. Then he decides where it is to be done. You know something has to be done, where it is to be done. How it is to be done. That is where how it is going to be designed. And who is to do the work. So the operations manager makes decisions relating to this in all the operations area. What, when, where, how, who, relating to all the area in terms of capacity planning, in terms of inventory management, in terms of quality, in terms of products, in terms of forecasting. So a lot of decisions he makes. So he becomes very crucial in ensuring that these decisions are made in the appropriate time correctly so that the efficiency of the organization increases. Whether it is the manufacturing facility we are talking about or it is the service providing facility we are talking about, these decisions are going to be crucial. To summarize, the operations management activity interfaces, it doesn't operate in isolation. It is not an independent activity. It interlaces with lot of functions in the organization. So what are the various functions it is associated with? That is depicted in the slide. Industrial engineering, maintenance, public relations, personnel, MIS, accounting, legal, purchase, distribution. Now, let us look into this independently. See, we know operations is the process of converting various inputs to the required outputs as defined by the management. In doing so, they are associated with a lot of other people. When you want raw materials, you have to buy. That is where purchasing comes. When you want to establish a factory, you have to get all the legal clearances. So that is where legal interaction comes. When you are having any employee problem, legal issues come in. Managing people, that is where personnel come. You have to get what the market requires. So you have to interact with the customers to get the details. What you want to manufacture, and after manufacturing you have to get the feedback. So public relations becomes important. So you have to maintain good relationship with them. You have machines and equipments for producing the product or providing the service. These machines, equipments have to be maintained continuously so that only it can perform the intended function without any break. So maintenance plays a very important role. And people who are employed in the organization has to do the job correctly. So you have to monitor the performance. You have to train them and monitor the performance. That is where industrial engineering activities come. So where you will be training people that these are the activities which are involved, and you will be able to really look at how they are able to perform the job. That is where the interface between industrial engineering and operations come. And when you're doing all these activities, you need to proper accounting procedures so that you can control the cost. So accounting plays a very important role. Products, when it is manufactured, that doesn't serve purpose. It has to be reach the customers. So that is where distribution of products come in. So the distribution department has to associate with the operations to help them to reach the product to the market. So all these things activity has to be done, and proper analysis has to be maintained by the organization. That is where the management information system is required. So management information system collates all information and shares with everybody. So operations interlaces with management information system too, so that it can decide, it can determine what it has to manufacture, when it can manufacture, where it is to be given, so that the products are sold and the return comes to the organization. So a proper analysis about the performance of the organization can be done with the help of MIS. So the interface of operations management with all the functional areas which we have defined here is very, very important for achieving its success. Friends, I hope you have understood in this session what operations management is, what is the scope and functions of operations management, and what are the various other areas operations management interfaces or interlaces so that it will be able to perform its intended function. I hope you have understood what operations management is about and what are the various dimensions of operations management, especially in manufacturing products as well as providing the services. The various scope and functions which are performed in producing the product as well as providing the services have been looked at in this particular session. I hope you enjoyed this session. Let us meet again in another fruitful session. Thank you.